Hey guys, Marstingan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so we are continuing on with the guides for the new 10 stages of Extreme Super Battle Road. This is for stage 13, the Fusion stage. So once ESBR was revealed, I've been going through, trying to record all of these in one go so I can push them and get them all out for when the event goes live. So once you guys get a chance to actually jump in and try the event, any troubles, there will be a guide available for every stage. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification so you know when all of the videos go up, and yeah, there will be a guide available for every stage. But we are going into the Fusion category. So Fusion is a fairly small category compared to some other ones, but it does have a lot of very, very powerful units. If you have all of the top tier units available for this category, then this stage is not going to be that difficult. So for the new 10, obviously it's the hardest one to do no items, but a lot of people don't really care about that. And some of the units on this team are so powerful that as long as you have a defensive item active, you're not going to have to worry about their overall performance. So we'll go through a couple of the leaders, because this category, despite being quite small, has a lot of leaders. So the main one that you probably want to be bringing is the 5th year anniversary STR Gogeta. One good thing about him for Super Battle Road, he can be okay defensively once he's built up, because like I said, no one cares much about no item runs, but if you put him in the 3rd slot, he does have a built-in chance to dodge at 50%, so he's a good unit to have sort of in that floating spot. He can still deal a decent amount of damage in his base form, and then of course from turn 4 he transforms into Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, and then yeah, he's just going to start dishing out tons of damage, additional attacks. He gets super effective against all types as the 1st or 2nd attacker in the turn. So once he's transformed, he can start dishing out a ton of damage regardless of who you're targeting because of that super effective. So he's probably the best choice for leader overall, I would say, although his leader skill is only 3 key and 150, but he's just a very solid unit, because when we move on to the physical LR Goku and Vegeta that obviously fuse into Super Gogeta, their leader skill I would probably say is slightly better with the HP and attack at 170, but this unit is very wonky for using on the Fusion team, because even though they are the leader, because they don't have fused fighter until they actually fuse into Gogeta, which depending on how quickly you're beating the stage, you have to get to the 6th turn and be below 50% HP, so you might not actually even see them transform. So there are some units that they can link up okay with, but they not the best the way they fit into the team. But I mean, even after all this time, they have aged fairly well. They have solid stats. They get a bunch of extra key with Rainbow Orbs, so it's not super difficult to get their 18 key super. And of course, there is the possibility, this was always a strategy in the OG version of Fusion, if you didn't have the most powerful version of the team, to stall the fight out deliberately to 6 turns, and then of course drop below 50% HP. You get the fusion into Super Gogeta, which gives you a full heal, and then Super Gogeta is of course a very powerful unit as well. He's effective against all types, got very solid attack and defense, and then he gets 3 additional key per Rainbow Orb, so it's very easy to 18 key super with him. And he does also lower attack on his 18 key super, so if anything survives, there's that little bit of utility for Super Battle Road as well. So he can be very good, but I think he's best once he fuses into Gogeta, and you might not see that often. So they're still a very solid unit to bring, but yeah, not necessarily the best. And then of course we have the AGL Gogeta, so he is good for Super Battle Road because his defense isn't crazy, but he has a medium chance to dodge built into his passive, and then once he transforms into Super Saiyan Blue on turn 5, that goes up to 50%. Once he's transformed, he has guaranteed crits, so the best build for him is to give him a bunch of additional. So obviously this guy can go off in one turn, dodge basically all the attacks coming his way, and then double super with guaranteed crits. So he can put out a ton of damage. His fusion leader skill is attack 160, HP and defense 130. So I guess technically he has the worst leader skill, but because he is such a good unit for Super Battle Road, he's definitely a solid option to use. He's been around for quite a while as well, so people are more likely to have more copies of him. But yeah, he is a very solid unit for this team, regardless of who you bring as the leader. So then, of course, I thought I'd include Tech Gogeta, because for some people, hey, he might be the only fusion category leader that you have, and he's 3 key, 150. Now, for Global, we don't have the same name update yet, unless it does get announced and come out with this celebration, but I don't think that's very likely. So, of course, if you have Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, you're going to want to be using him over the tech one. But the tech one does lower enemies' attack by being on rotation, so that is useful. And of course, he does have a 70% chance to counter supers over the Int Gogeta's 50%. So he does have his uses if you don't have the Int Gogeta. He can be pretty good. He does need to super attack first to actually get his to get any sort of defense. He will get absolutely smacked around if you put him in slot 1. But he could be useful if you have to bring him as a lead. If you don't have Int Gogeta, you can have him floating in the 3rd spot. Because by the time he super attacks, his defense is okay. And obviously, if you get any of those sneaky super attacks in the final slot, he has the 70% chance to counter. So he is very good. Now, Go Tanks and Ghost, we mentioned him briefly in the Super Types video, but yeah, he's going to be an MVP. He's free to play. His Easy A made him incredibly good, so he is a must-bring unit for this fusion stage, because he greatly raises attack and defense on super attack, so his defense can be pretty good. He has a 50% chance to stun, and then of course he creates rainbow orbs and gets 7% attack and defense per orb obtained, so you can string together a massive field of orbs with that orb changing. And of course he does then also recover 9,999 HP and get an extra 30% attack and defense per rainbow orb. So if you're picking up potentially say 2 or 3 rainbow orbs even, that's still 60 to 90% extra defense that he's giving himself, on top of the 7% from each orb individually and the fact that he's greatly raising on his super attack. So I do think it pretty much goes without saying he is a must-use unit for this stage, and he's free to play, so unless you're a newer player who missed the event, everyone should have this guy. But I guess to be fair, if you're a newer player, you're probably not going to be taking on ESBR just yet. But he is a fantastic unit, and definitely you need to bring him on the team. So we mentioned him just now, but of course here he is, the big daddy himself, the Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, one of the best units in the game, so obviously one of the best units on this fusion team. Straight away from the start, full on out of the gate, 200% attack and defense, and then an extra 40% for the first 8 turns. Super Battle Road is not usually very likely to go past 8 turns for one fight, so he's going to have that passive active for the entire time. Attack's effective against all types, so it doesn't matter who you target, sorry. And you're going to deal maximum damage. And then he has the super attack counters, so 50% chance to counter the enemy's super attack. He's just going to be super good. RNG can obviously let you down sometimes, and he might not counter that many supers, but he's just super powerful straight out of the gate, both offensively and defensively. And then once he has received 4 attacks, which can be very easy in Super Battle Road, depending what the rotation looks like, you can pretty much get this to activate during turn 1, so that you can then use it on turn 3. It gives him a massive attack and defensive buff while massively nerfing the enemy's attack and defense, which in Super Battle Road, attack lowering is incredibly powerful, so his active skill is really good and is going to work super well, not just for boosting his damage, but obviously everybody else on that turn is going to take a lot less damage. You couple the usage of his active skill with like an Icarus, and you basically don't take damage that turn. So very strong. Moving on, we have the Int Go Tanks. He was just on the Janemba banner, so maybe some people managed to pick him up for the first time, or you managed to get some dupes for him. He's really good. So he greatly raises defense in base, and then when you get to turn 3 becomes Super Saiyan Go Tanks, where he still greatly raises defense, does immense damage, and he has a 70% chance to stun the enemy. So stunning, of course, very powerful in Super Battle Road, and he has a 70% chance to do it. His passive is quite RNG based. He gets a solid 100% attack and defense, and then he has a high chance of getting 50% extra twice for each one. So if you get the full-on God RNG roll, you get 100% extra attack and defense. Now, unfortunately, there's not a good way to tell which of these went off other than constantly seeing his stats and seeing how they change. But on a good turn, he's going to be insanely good, especially after supering. He has a medium chance to launch an additional built into his passive, so if you have dupes or skill orbs in him, he can potentially super attack 3 times in one turn, and he's greatly raising his defense each time with a 70% chance to stun. So he's really good. I normally save red coins for Dokkan Fest LRs. I did actually buy a copy of this Go Tanks with my red coins from this banner, just so I could get him up to 2 dupes, because he's going to be super good in this mode. So I wanted him to have all his abilities and the gold equipment slot available. So he is super good and definitely worth bringing on the team. So moving on, we have the Int Super Gogeta. He does pretty much far outshine the STR one, so I didn't mention the STR one here. But he raises defense on Super, lowers attack, which is really good for Super Battle Road, of course. As long as you get one Rainbow Orb, he has a medium chance to dodge. It's only 30%, but, you know, it's better than nothing. Plus, he does have the free level 5 dodge from being an Int unit. So sometimes you can get lucky and get those dodges with him. He's obviously not as good in slot 1. Because ideally, you want to be getting that Rainbow Orb and you want to have him targeting anyone who's going to be attacking him so that he lowers their attack, just so that if he doesn't dodge, he's obviously not going to take as much damage. And then if you get 2 or more Rainbow Orbs, he gets a nice little bit of an attack buff as well. So, and 3 orbs gives you the high chance to crit, but he's super effective against all types anyway, so that gives you a little bit of extra damage, but 3 Rainbow Orbs obviously a little bit harder to get. And he's a super good link unit for basically everyone on the team because he has Prepared for Battle and Over in a Flash. So he is very, very good as well. And then I thought I would include the STR Go Tanks. We mentioned him in a couple of the teams we talked about in the Super Class guide, because whilst he's not the best, he only has 80% attack and defense, he gives all allies key +1 and attack and defense 40% when facing 2 or more enemies. So as a support unit for this team, he works really, really well while there are still multiple enemies alive. And then, of course, he does have a medium chance to stun on Super, and he does raise his defense a little bit on Super attack. So he's not that great defensively. If you have to have him on a rotation and he's going to get attacked a bunch, that is definitely a good turn to use a defensive item. But he's going to be giving everyone a solid buff as well as the chance to stun. And so lastly, I wanted to include these 2 units because I used them in the OG Fusion no items run. I don't necessarily think they're strong enough without being TURs yet for the no items team build, but for most people who are just going to be using items, this Xeno Go Tanks and then the Go Hanks are both really, really good. So Go Tanks, they're kind of designed to be run together. So Go Tanks lowers attack on Super attack, and they both get 70% attack and defense. They get an additional attack and defense 20% with each super up to 80%. So once they've supered 4 times, they're at their max build. But they get a guaranteed additional super. Go Tanks gets one when the enemy is sealed. And then when it comes to the Go Hanks, he seals on super attack. And then he gets a guaranteed super if the enemy is attack lowered. So obviously Go Hanks can seal, which lets Go Tanks get guaranteed additionals, and Go Tanks lowers attack, which lets Go Hanks get guaranteed additionals. So they work really well together. Once their passive was fully built up, they were actually very good defensively in the OG version of this stage. Now obviously Extreme Super Battle Road turns everything up to 11, so they're going to be taking quite a bit more damage. But once their passive is fully built up, they should be pretty good. And even on the early turns, with an item active, they're going to be fine. One thing to note is, of course, Gogeta and a couple of the other units on the team can not only lower the enemy's attack with their super, but units like Tech Gogeta lower the enemy's attack just by existing on the rotation. That would then give you this Go Hanks' guaranteed additional super, so he could go first, he seals an enemy, and then that gives Go Tanks the guaranteed additional as well. So these 2 can work really, really well. You probably just have to use items to keep them protected a little bit in the first couple of turns before they get their passive fully built up. So those are my top picks and honorable mentions. Looking back at the list here, there's not really a lot of other standouts. The new Veku is pretty bad. The free-to-play Gogeta, not that great. Obviously, when it comes to the Fusions characters, unfortunately, super old and not been updated very much, like Karoli, you know, Teen Super Saiyan 3 Go Tanks, Bullpan. Like these guys are just going to take way too much damage. Like Barlot, they'll kind of just get destroyed while not really giving you a huge amount of benefit. So I don't think I missed out anyone, but as always, if there's a unit you think I didn't cover or we should have talked more about, let us know down below and we can continue the discussion in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.